Hello everyone, my name's Liam, otherwise known as the Boss Hog, and this is my wealth as of the end of June 2021, which currently stands at 270,000. Let's have a walkthrough of what that's made up of. But before we get started, this is my current and projection. You'll see here that having pulled away slightly in April and then got pulled back again in May, that was mainly because of how we were recording basically and with costs and income. So it was slightly artificial rise in April and then it got pulled back to reality in May. Actually, June is pretty accurate. This is a combination of some poker, which I've started playing again. My wife's business is starting to bring in some money, and I got a bonus as well, which we don't count in these projections because they're, well, I mean, it's not guaranteed, right? But I got a reasonable bonus, so that kind of all contributed toward this. So actually, although this is pretty much, 11k ahead of budget at the moment, this is reality, so this feels pretty good actually to give ourselves that comfort, and if it continues, that's also fantastic as well. But again, let's have a look at how this is broken down specifically. Alright, so in terms of home equity, this is just gradually accruing as we pay our mortgage each month, and there's a small rise that's built into it as well. If anything, it's probably underdoing the current housing situation in the UK, which, whilst not quite as crazy as what I'm hearing about in America, is still pretty frothy, even in London as well. So, it is what it is. To be a homeowner is a nice situation, and to not be sucks. So I don't really love the fact that we're making money on our property. But we have an asset, so there it is. Our pension pots also overperformed, running ahead. Although I may not have done great in the stock market this month. If you want details as to why, watch my portfolio roundup. But actually, our broader pension pots did pretty solidly and ran ahead of expectations. Both of the pensions are assumingly going to grow at 6% a year. I've done 6% to be prudent. The insurance setup on them is slightly more prudent than my own, so that's fine as well. And also there's a slight management fee for them, which I don't have with my own investing. So I'm projecting 6% a year for these, and they're running ahead of that at the moment, so that's really great. The ISAs here, again, ISAs are like IRAs, but even better. So that this is great. They're tax advantaged investment accounts effectively. Again, we had a respectable month, still profitable, just not as good as it has been, but still moving in the right direction, and lots of capital injection as well, to be fair. My daughter's ISA also continues to do well and is slightly running ahead of expectations, so that's great. Non-ISA shares here, this is just one stock that's not doing great, but I'm holding on to it in the hopes that it's going to turn around. And then other here, this is relatively small, and basically is a debt that could be called, but shouldn't be, but just in case, we've got enough money available to cover it if needed. So that's what that minus 12,000 is, and again, still moving in the right direction, having fallen quite far behind in May. So again, reasonably happy with this. Alright, so in terms of our home equity, last month was a much bigger deal on this walkthrough here, just because we broke through the 30% for the first time. This time we're at 30.28, so nothing major changing. Again, we're just paying off our mortgage, the home is slightly appreciating in value, and it's all going in the right direction, so no issues here at all. Alright, so private pensions. So actually in May, these underperformed, bearing in mind we're adding between us, me and my wife, about 1,000 a month into our private pensions. You can see last month actually we went backwards, but this month it was much better. We gained sort of the better part of 2,000. So they both pensions actually, or all three pensions. So Nutmeg is my consolidated previous employers, so I'm not adding any new capital to it. But again, you can see there the difference between April and May, where it barely grew, and then June, where it had a solid uptick. So no new capital into that pot. My pension is with my current employer. This is Standard Life, which is my favorite portal. It's really good to use. And again, although I added, or me and my employer and the tax man added, about 750, you can see here as well, there's still been really great growth. So that was pleasing to see. And likewise with my wife's pension with Royal London, that she adds, I think, 250 a month. And again, it's still outperforming. So definitely moving in the right direction. And actually, having a really good June compared to May, so that feels really good, and it's now back ahead of schedule again after that, so great. Alright, so next we've got our shares, and again, we only made £650 profit on our shares last month, so excluding the ones for Aurelia, because that's managed separately. But again, moving in the right direction. The reason for these increases is because we add capital quite aggressively into this. In both of the ISAs, so me and my wife Eva, we do £80 every working day. So I think there were 22 days last month, so it's basically 22 times 80 times 2. So, you know, a pretty significant increase here. The reason why we're doing this is because we can access our ISAs at any time. They're instant access. And we're looking to retire when we're 55, or when I'm 55, my wife's 53. So that's actually before we can access our pensions. And also when we do retire, we're hopefully going to retire quite fat and quite well. So the fact is that our income from ISAs is tax-free. So, you know, like our ISAs by the time we're done should be sitting about 2.5 million and probably yielding, you know, 100 grand, and that will be completely free. Sorry, tax-free, to be clear. So, you know, like currently in the UK, if you earn 100 grand, you lose 50 grand of it in taxes, right? So it's a big deal basically, and that will make us feel very well off. So that's why so much focus at the moment is going into our ISAs rather than pensions, because even though there are some advantages in pensions, we can't touch it until we're at least 57. Government may well increase that. So we're kind of focusing on our ISA for now, and then we're going to focus more on our pensions a little bit later in life, probably into our 40s is the current thinking, but we'll see. So yeah, shares feels good, moving in the right direction, still enjoying share dealing, and yeah, so that feels pretty fun as well, not just making money, but actually having fun doing it. So that's awesome. So yeah, so in terms of our joint bank account, actually, to be fair, June was quite an expensive month. Like the month before in May, my wife had, you know, all the costs related to her business, going back to work clothes, etc. This month, you know, I've got a new job starting next month, so I went also clothes shopping, suits, etc. So it wasn't cheap from that regard either. We also increased my daughter's nursery days. She's really loving it. My wife and I are quite busy, so you know that feels good for us to get an extra day in. So that was another increase in costs. And also as well, where I'm leaving my current employer, you know, I went out for a very expensive meal and drinks with a good friend of mine, a colleague, but actually I think a friend. He's a subscriber, so hopefully he appreciates that. But you know, we had a really great evening in central London with expensive alcohol. And then I also took my current team out for a paid-for dinner. You know, not expenses because that's scummy. I wanted to thank them for the 5 years I've worked at my current employer. And then likewise, there's been a few other like drinks and, you know, farewells and everything else. Where so I mean, I spent like £1,000 on myself slash my team slash, you know, leaving stuff in this month. So you know, everything kind of added up from that perspective. But it was also really good because, you know, I started playing poker again and had a profitable month. Nothing major, but you know, I've got some bankroll now, so I'll try and grow that and add some more money. And likewise, my wife's starting to have some business come in as well. And lastly, again, I got a bonus, so all of that contributed. In terms of how this has changed outside of that, so again, like our joint bank account there at 32,000 feels good. My wife's still sitting on 3,300 in our current account. She hasn't transferred over yet, so that feels that's fine as well. That I know it's there. Nothing else really as much has changed except from the fact that I did decide to give my sister another 400. She's having a difficult time of it at the moment, and although she's a grown woman and, you know, needs to sort that out, I was encouraged that, you know, she was moving in the right direction, and she's definitely kind of been suffering from a few things and hasn't had a great last year, you know, just a bit unlucky in a couple of ways, so not totally self-inflicted, you know, and I did like the brotherly thing and made sure she was okay, and kind of made it clear as well this is probably a last amount because, you know, I've got my own family now and everything else, but £400 to us means less, it just does, you know, and hopefully that will give her enough breathing room to sort some shit out, so we'll see. But anyway, we'll see if I ever get that back. If not, then at least I can feel like I wasn't a complete douche about that. But broadly speaking, pretty happy with this other here, and again, the IOU family, that I think will come due in about 18 months, or maybe more like 24, but it will be something like 73,000 by the time it's done, but we have this money available if needed, right? So if they come to us, then we can easily find the 12k from the ISAs, and as an example, right, it's instant access, or as well, we have like 44,000 that we could actually release from capital in our home, so both of those will be options as well. So even though this is minus 12, it's really just because of this debt obligation that we have to settle up, and that's fine. So I feel pretty flexible with this, and that's the general approach here. So All right, so yeah, back to this. Like I say, really happy. I mean, how can I not be really happy? Right, we're now running 11,500 ahead of schedule. There's some reasons for that, but I mean, even with a fairly expensive June, it feels really good. This money does include, some poker pot as well. I'm going to think of how to break that out on this. I wasn't really sure if I should count it as wealth or how to display it. So right now, I've just put it into the cash pot basically. So I'll try and think of how to display that. I have 3,000 in a bankroll, and then about 660 in cash as well. On a night out, I look to lose no more than 500, and I am profitable in the long term. But obviously, poker is a game of variance, so we'll see. Again, that's kind of why I didn't want to strip it out, because it doesn't necessarily feel like wealth until a certain stage. Again, I'll think of a way to display that next month when maybe I've got a bit more time and I'm not kind of handing over my job and trying to look after things from that perspective. So anyway, yeah, that rounds out the wealth at the moment. Really pleased with where we are. Again, how could I not be? And hopefully July to December will bring more of the same. Great. Well, I hope you found that interesting. Any questions, please put them in the comments. Otherwise, I've been the Boss Hog. Thank you very much for joining me, and good luck with your wealth building, I suppose. Thanks very much, everyone.